What's up, guys? This is Hunky Donkey, and I'm here for a draft analysis, ASL Season 20, with Hutch, Ian, and Malone with me. Say hi, guys.
Yo,
Ooh,
Yo, what's up, guys?
Yeah, so if you're new here, ASL, it's a great community, lots of wonderful coaches, like three with me right now. And yeah,
invisible.
do you guys have anything else to add?
Yeah, I mean, thank you to Hunky for recording, putting this on. My computer died yesterday, so we're trying to get this draft analysis out to you guys since this is usually like pretty anticipated every season. But yeah, thank you to Hunky for joining us here. Malone joining us for the first time on the channel in a while. Throwback to like the OG days, but yeah, we got quite the crew today.
let's go.
Let's go.
Let's do this.
All right. First up, we have Shadow and the PC Barcelonas. Do you guys want to take it away?
Yeah, sure. I can take this one. So Shadow takes Megalodios here. First overall, I gave this a 7.3. Ian and I were a lot harsher on this. Like me personally, this team just doesn't have a lot of physical offense outside of like Lycanroc Dusk and Floatzel. Despite Megalodios could be more physical. It's just it feels a very like Gen 6 team. I don't really like Vaporeon anymore. It just feels kind of passive. I kind of wish he did a little bit better. In his later picks, like Spite Ops, more Pico. I mean, how much use are you really getting out of that? But overall, I think it's a pretty solid team. Megalodios is pretty deadly. Gets flip turn now, which is pretty important to note. That it can utilize the bulky sets a lot better. So overall, not too bad of a team. Definitely one of Shadow's drafts that I like a little bit more. I just kind of wish he took a more offensive approach rather than drafting like Clef Vaporeon on the same team. Because Shadow likes to do this thing with like Clef and Slowbro a lot of the time, and it's just like it's too passive for my liking. It just gets kind of exploited, but I Lycanroc Dusk is awesome as like a physical focal point. Terapagos is good value. Um, I like putting Floatzel on there as an offensive water type. So I think it comes down to how much he gets out of Megalodios, which I think Megalodios is really, really good. Um, so yeah, no, overall not a bad team. Pretty good start.
Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah, go on ahead.
okay. All right. I rated this team. Me, Malone, Brad rated this team a little bit higher than Hutch and Ian. One thing I noticed about this team a lot, there's a bunch of different rockers here that I really like. There's two clerks. I know Hutch, you said you didn't like Clefable and Vaporeon. I kind of
I
get it.
hate them.
uh, I kind of like Vaporeon is there because Clef isn't just forced into a cleric role. It can be a little bit more offensive. It can just be a little bit more versatile than the classic Wish set. The momentum is pretty solid too, with U-turn, Spite Up, Minior, uh, Flip Turn, Vaporeon, Floatzel, and Volt Switch with I guess more P.E.K.K.A. But how much is more P.E.K.K.A. coming to the game? Teleport with Clefable. A good amount of removal too with Rapid Spinners and Toadscroll, Terapagos, and again the more Morpeko. I like Shadow's uses of his Terracaps. The Lycanroc Dusk. I'm a big fan of Lycanroc Dusk. I used this thing once in like a speed tour. That thing hits like a truck, and of course, terrifying. I think you used it, Hutch. Uh,
Yeah, this is pretty much the exact way. And it was actually like one of my only physical attackers last season too, so same kind of deal.
yep, it's pretty awesome. I seen firsthand Minior Terra Shell Smash Minior is pretty fucking strong, if I do say so myself. I remember it like swept the whole league until finals and another one I participated in. And then there's some more P.E.K.K.A. I'm not really sure about this as a Terra Cap. Maybe I would prefer having Sneasel Hisui as like a E3 cap or even Floatzel. But I guess without rain, I mean, I don't know. I feel like floats even without rain, Floatzel, Terra Water Wave Crash can really nuke something. Some flaws I had with this team. There's no speed tier above 120, I believe. The fastest thing is the Floatzel and the Sneasel at base 115. There's a small fairy weakness. Your resist is Heatran, which is a really good fairy resist, but other than that, once you get the like a solid ground type, really pressure that Heatran down, fairy spam. It's pretty nice here. Um, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Another thing I put was a rock resist being Toad Scroll and Sneasel. Sneasel, I guess, doesn't want to be forced into that defensive role, and Toad Scroll is a solid rock resist, but I'm not sure how much times you're going to bring Toad Scroll when you have a really good rapid spinner in Terrapagos and a bunch of different rockers. Do you guys have any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think when it came to scoring this team, Hutch and I had pretty much similar points. But yeah, I do feel besides the Mega Latios, Heatran, and Clefable, everything else is somewhat underwhelming. And but yeah, he's got a really good core there. But one thing I would say, looking at his speed tiers, where he has Floatzel and Sneasel both at 115, but I kind of feel like they do pretty much the same thing in terms of the attacking stat and being a frail breaker. I mean, Sneasel with an Eviolite isn't too bad, but yeah, you're not going to rely to bring it week in, week out as your physical breaker. Um, Other than that, I think this team could really benefit from having a ghost type. Perhaps it has really good hazard stacking ability, but you know, there's no spin blocker. It's quite easy to just get rid of the hazards on the opposing team. It doesn't have a Defiant Mon or a Ghost type to, somewhat punish teams for removing hazards. Other than that, it's a pretty shadowy draft to have Vaporeon and Clefable on the same team. Um, but yeah, I think it suits Shadow's playstyle perhaps. Interested to see how he makes it work this season.
Yeah, I'm gonna speak for like 2 seconds because I don't want this video to last 40 years. But Ian kind of stole my main point. Was that this is like a I think this is kind of a fun spin on a classic shadowy team. Like you can still tell that this is a shadow team if you looked at it, but I like the Megalodi, I like the Terrapagos, I like some of the low tiers, not all of them, and I think Shadow's just a fun coach. So I think he'll at least do some fun things with his team. Shadow with Terrapagos is like I'm honestly kind of terrified of that. So we'll see, but that's all I have to say.
Yeah, something I noticed, his co-coach is Wolf Turds, and playing Wolf Turds a couple of times, and like just seeing this past 2 seasons how he performed, he can be really creative
Yeah.
with his team style. So I'm kind of scared Shadows and Wolf Turds minds together could create something devious with these highly versatile, well, Clefable and Terrapagoses, and I guess Megaladios and whole versatility a lot. All right, with that out of the way, let's move on to the next coach. We have Okami and Traverse the Trevenants. Uh, this team. Let's go over some pros. There's a solid amount of rockers. There's the Gligar, which is a really good low tier hazard setter, good defensive wall. Diancie, and both of those mons can set up stealth rocks and spikes. And the Arcalda, you're not going to really see Arcalda running rocks, but it's a nice option to have. Like Hutch mentioned previously before we started this recording, Dracovish and Feeny are really good together because Dracovish doesn't care about the dragon stab that much because you're just going to be spamming Fish's Run. There's a decent amount of momentum with this team too. With wait, actually, I take that back. It's U-turn with Gligar and Orbeetle,
Or
and
Beetle.
yeah, and Baton Pass with Diancie, I guess. All right, I forget I said that. The Terra Caps are pretty solid. I like the Terra Caps. It's Entei, Terra Fire, Terra Normal. INT, which can be a menace with Free Terra and Guzzlord, which is one of the better tier E Terra caps. The problems I
Round
have.
3 Guzzlord, by the way.
Sorry, what'd you say?
Round 3 Guzzlord, by
Oh,
the way.
round three. Wait. Oh
Round
shit!
3
Wait.
Guzzlord. The beginning of round 3.
Holy moly! All right. Maybe I would wait a little bit more just to hold off on Guzzlord. I don't think anyone wants to Guzzlord. Loves
To be
loves
clear,
the Guzzy.
I think it's a really good E tier as a Terra captain, but round 3 is crazy.
All right. Some flaws I have with this team. There's those. Let's start off with a bit of a speed gap between Zamazenta Crown and Entei. Um, of course, a big weakness in this team is that you have three dragons in Misty Terrain. And I mean, I just said Draco Vision Tapu Fini are good, but Archaludon and Guzzlord really love Dracos, or their dragon moves, I should say. So maybe that's not the best synergy wise. There's a good amount of weaknesses in this team in ice, flying, ghost, fairy. Entei is kind of forced to be a defensive role a lot of the time, which again means it means that it can't really be it like widens the speed gap between Samacenta Crown and Entei even more. Yeah, do you guys have anything else to say?
Yeah, I just want to add a little bit. Personally, I've seeing both Archaludon and also Zamazenta Crown on the same team. Uh, I mean, they're both excellent steel types by themselves, but uh, neither of them resist any fairy type moves, which would benefit this team a lot. Because besides Entei, nothing really fancies switching into a fairy type move. Um, Besides that, I would say you hit the nail on the head with the three dragon types with Misty Terrain. Maybe that's something he might want to look into. Um, Maybe he doesn't really need that many redundant typings when he could invest in an electric type. Momentum is a bit lacking on this team, so an electric type with Volt Switch could really help a lot. Speed tier wise, yeah, Zamazenta Crown is kind of locked in with its item. So Entei being the next fastest mon at base 100, it's quite easy to outscarf this team if needed. So there is some work needed for this team to improve, and it's a lot of room for improvement. But some excellent mods to build around. So that, to be honest, there's not much change needed. But yeah, should be a fun team by the end of the season.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think this
Yeah,
is like also a sneaky annoying team, to be honest, because it has a lot of high, like it is just overall pretty bulky team, but I think like combination of Finny, Misty Surge, Tangrove, and like even some of the lower tiers, Eldegoss and Duosion, which otherwise I don't really like his picks, are like kind of sneaky annoying, and I think that that would be something that you might want to play into. Uh, just kind of lean into that, but otherwise, yeah, I fully agree.
yeah, I'll just chime in here real quick. That's a good point that you bring up, Ian, where there's Misty Surge on this team, and yet both the steel types don't resist Fairy. I think Entei's pretty bulky, but it just feels like a lot of gaps are missing. Like Electric could definitely help out Dracovish. Like I think bulky waters can be pretty troublesome for this team. Zama has no way to break. Archaludon, I mean, kind of with Thunderbolt, but your grass types are Tangrowth and Eldegoss, not necessarily the best ways to break water types. Um, so I was pretty harsh on this team, but it's like a few transactions away from like being pretty good because I think you can
Yeah.
get a lot of like electric type value out of tier E. Like, what is the Duosion doing there? You have an Orbital, so that would kind of fix all of my issues with this team pretty fast because there's just a lot of things that are scary. Like Finny Tangrowth, Archaludon is an insane defensive core. Dracovish is a nightmare to calc for, so it's like a few steps away from being an insanely good team. not terrible. It's just a little redundant.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I agree with all of that. Something I also noticed before we move on, Tangrowth in particular likes to put its opponents to sleep, and that might not possibly happen in the Misty
That's a good
Surge.
point.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing about Gligar, but it's a flying type, so it's fine. I guess the same thing you can say about Eldegoss, but yeah, that's another thing. I don't really understand why there is a Eldegoss if you do have a Tangrowth. Tangrowth is just literally better in nearly every way. But
Yeah.
Gas removal, but
yeah, it has removal, but I'm not the biggest fan of it personally. All right,
yeah, same.
yeah. Okay, let's move on to our next coach. It's Hutch. Hutch, I'll let you take the lead in this one. Describe your team, whatnot.
Perfect. So
Oh, sorry,
first
sorry.
round pick had to go with gouging. Figured that Holt, Pow, and gouging were probably the three best mons in format. Ironically, I had to pick between the three here. I think Holt is maybe a little bit better than gouging, but I think gouging is a hell of a lot more fun. Basic strategy with this team was just gouging is probably going to set up defensively on every one of my opponents because it's so hard to kill. So let's go ahead and make a team that just kind of helps gouging with everything it dies to. Edgequake is a big one. So first mon I wanted to put there was Zarude. We got Terra Zarude, which is pretty insane. I wanted to put Mew there for the versatility, and then just wrapping it up with like cores like Gliscor gives me that kind of point guard type mon. Like I used Zapdos a bunch last season where I can just go into it, pivot out, and that's the other thing is like this mon has one or this team has one, two, three, four, five, six mons that can pivot. So it's just the idea of keeping up like high tempo. I can get hazards up pretty easily with Gliscor. I can do whatever the hell I want with Mew. Baskia Legion can break pretty well. Iron Crown. It's a solid steel type. I didn't know what else I wanted for a steel type. Then we have some speed, Kilowattrel. I think I did pretty well on the E tiers getting Regice, Cloth, and Kecleon. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to Terra the Cloth because I feel like I might need the Regice a little bit more. I know Malone. I'm sorry, I couldn't free Terra it, but um, yeah, I think this team does a lot of things well. It maybe doesn't have the most immediate power. Gouging's kind of a slow burn when it comes to getting immediate power. Basket Legion is kind of the only one, but I think the team has enough like pivoting, hazard pressure, setup for sure. Um, it's probably one of my more favorite teams that I've drafted in a while. But yeah.
Yeah, if you really fuck with this team a lot, you can see in my ranking. I rated it at 9.3. The defense is just incredible. You got Gliscor, defensive Mew, kind of defensive Basket Legion, Iron Crown. I really like Weezing Galar. I think Regice is a really good Terra Cap at E tier. And Cloth actually can put in a little work defensively too. You have a lot. I think, in my opinion, the best hazard setting in the season, or I guess in the league so far. Or not even so far, just in general. But especially because you have Gliscor, really good spiker, T spikes, 5 different rockers. Something else I really liked about your team is your choice in like everything from actually just like all the Pokemon you choose. I remember you said something about my similar to my Wi-Fi season last um last season. I
Oh
can
yeah,
say, I
yeah.
would say the same thing here. I can see well, I guess not the Calcion or
Whoa,
Calcifer.
whoa, 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 whoa. We are not dissing Kecleon,
Okay,
okay? I will
okay,
not stand for
all right.
the goaded Protean user.
My point being that I can easily see any of these mods coming any week. Iron Crown and C tier is bonkers to me just because people don't use it. Um, I think maybe that's why we tier in. I see a tier that 11 points at some leagues, C tier here. That thing is a monster. One calm mind or a weakness policy set can beat teams on its own. I'm a really big fan of the Terra Cap. Zarude was a Terra Cap I really wanted to try, but I got my hands on something else, so I couldn't fit it. Kilowattrel, God Kilowattrel. I really fuck with this mon a lot too, and Free Terra helps it a lot. And of course, like I said before, Regice, Free Terra, it could be really good defensive mon now that it doesn't have a shit typing. Overall, a really good team that builds around gouging. A small flaw I noticed with this team, I feel like I am dissing Calcleon a bit, but if the Zarude is like forced to Terra, I feel like Ghost Spam is pretty prevalent with this team. We don't really have any other resist besides Zarude and I guess God Calcleon apparently. There's also a small speed
My
gap.
goat.
uh, you know what? You're the second person I've seen Glaze Calcleon, but I never seen it. Never seen it in the league before. There's a small speed gap between Crown and Kilowatt, but that's not too big of an issue to me, because I do think you have like solid amounts. Oh shit, sorry, solid amounts of speed control with like percentage of speed and stuff.
You got anything, Ian?
Yeah, I think you guys nailed the positives of the team. Uh, it's honestly one of the better teams drafted this season. Big fan of a lot of these mods. Gouging. Yeah, you guys pretty much said everything that needed to be said. One thing I would say that I would probably have liked to be included in this team would be a mon that could with a big special attack that could be a plug and play mon rather than a setup mon. Uh, on the physical side of things, you have incredible physical attackers who can still deal big damage without needing to set up. On the special side, Iron Crown is great, but it probably needs a turn or two to set up. Yeah, would be nice to have had a mon that can just you can U-turn a momentum into and just hit big damage. But yeah, still an amazing team. Big fan.
Yeah, I think the one thing for me that was not as touched upon was like, I don't know, the speed. I don't like Kilowattrel being the only guy that's really, you
Yeah,
know, over 105, especially from experience. Like, that's not something you're going to be bringing like every week, although it is pretty valuable. I do like the pick. And I think Hunky has a decent point about kind of like the speed tiers that it's manageable, but then you're kind of like, I don't know, then you might become a bit more predictable with items if you're running booster more or if you need scarf. So that's kind of my main flaw, but like I think this is a really fun team. I think this will be a good time. So I like it.
Last thing I will say on the speed gap, real quick. 120 is like if you go 120, if you're 120 speed, so you're like you're Doug Trio and you go adamant, you are one speed less than Zarude. So it's only the 121 to 124 gap that actually gets to capitalize on it. It's like Greninjas and Tornaduses and stuff like that. Wink, wink.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. All right, with that out of the way, let's move on to our next coach. It's Handy. Do you guys have anything, or should I start?
I could start because I already had a week one match against him, which I lost.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
yeah, so yeah, this team is quite fun. Cyclizar, Megazam, that's quite terrifying with a shed tail. You can just swap into either a Zam or that Gyarados at the back, which can Dragon Dance anytime in this sweep. Um, but I would say this team, it's somewhat reliant on Cyclizar to get into those winning positions. It has really good mons on the team, but I do feel like it's somewhat uh, predictable in the sense that you would expect Megazam, Cyclizar, Zapdos, Florges, pretty much to come week in, week out. Those four are really important to this team and how it works. And then there's just two other mons that somewhat, can rotate in and out. So it's somewhat predictable to play against. But I would say for what it can do, it can really one misplay and it can cause you the game. Basically, it can set up with so many different mons and wins with so many different ways. So I do quite like it. Um, yeah, it should be interesting to see how this uh, his season turns out with his team.
Yeah, I agree. This team just looks fun, dude. I never seen Mega Zam allowed in the draft, but now any complex bands until this league actually. So I'm really excited to see Handy bring it out to its full potential. I do like he has a lot of speed tiers above base 100, Mega Zam, Cyclizar, Zoroark, Miss Magius, uh, and Zapdos is base 100 speed. The removal is solid. You got a really good defogger in Zapdos. Florges can run defog, I guess, if you want. Cyclizar is a really good rapid spinner. Good amount of U-turn again. The momentum. Volt switch with Zapdos. Good amount of U-turn. Oh yeah, like Zapdos, Cyclizar, and Zoroark. Main problem I had with this team is below base 100, the speed tiers are a little bit shaky. Your next fastest mon is Gyarados with base 81. I feel like Zapdos in general is forced to be defensive a lot of times, just so it can pad out a few of the weaknesses this team would have otherwise. And even then, there's still an ice, flying, and fairy weakness you would have to watch out for. I feel like is pretty spammable. I do fuck with the Terra Caps a lot though. I think Florges is among people are super polarizing against. They either love it or they hate it, think it's too passive. With Terra, I think people can like I'm on the boat, I love Florges, and with Terra, I think Fairy and Fire. It can really have that offensive push if it needs to become a real threat. Miss Magius and Scorch, God, Scorch are great, excellent Terra Caps as well. Can really abuse. Scorch specifically, I really like that one. It's like my second favorite Gen 8 one. I feel like it could really put in some work as a valuable eater.
Okay, so I'm actually going to go contrary to what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
The Terra Captains are actually a reason that I voted this down. I think Miss Magius is great. I think Centiskorch is great. But the
Oh,
biggest glaring issue when I look at this team,
hold on.
there is no physical offense. There is seemingly zero physical offense. And it was such a perfect opportunity to do Terra Gyarados, which I think is a monster of a Terra Captain. I think Florges becomes less passive. I'm not a big Florges fan, admittedly, so maybe this is a little bit skewed. Um, I think it does help it be less passive, but I would have much preferred with the state of this team to have a I don't know, like Terra Dragon on Gyarados, Terra Water, Terra Flying, Terra Ground, stuff like this. Um, because this team has literally zero physical offense. What are you running like Life Orb Cyclizar? Are we running like non-Terra Gyarados? I feel like that's just not as good as it could have been. Um, I like some of the lower tier picks. I think he had a phenomenal tier D. I think Mudsdale's undervalued. I think Magius is undervalued. And I think Centiskorch is kind of the greatest fire type in E tier. So I really wanted to rate this draft higher. I ultimately gave it a 7.5. I would have liked to give it a 9.5, but dude, just slap an AV on and you're just kind of good because what you're gonna take a gyro ball from a Ferrothorn. Oh, he's gonna run physical Zoroark. Like you don't really have to worry about the physical attackers on this team as much, especially with Gyarados not having a Terra Captain. Um, Overall, I like a lot of things about this team. Like I'm one of the biggest Zapdos fans ever. Brought it to all 15 of my games last season. Mega Zam is a monster with Cyclizar. I mean, he definitely knows how he wants to approach each week, but I just think he completely missed the mark on Gyarados, and just lacks a lot of physical offense because of it.
Oh yeah. Now that you
Uh,
mentioned it, yeah, I think Gyarados would have been a much better Terra Cap. I can't believe I missed that. Sorry, Melon, I cut you off. Go ahead.
no, you're good. As always, I agree. I didn't even really see that point. I think I have kind of two 1.5 points. The first thing is like hazard control in general. I really don't think it's actually that good. Like obviously hazards themselves, like they're not really present, which is like I don't know. Sometimes it's not. It doesn't make the team better, but like so if you're not the type of coach that it's going to utilize that, whatever. But I think the removal, like kind of goes into my second point, but like you're very reliant on these same mons. Like it's pretty reliant on Zapdos and Cyclozar, which is kind of a combination of what you guys said. Um, and I don't know, like it's almost like you're kind of giving away a move slot on one of these guys each week, which is something that I've had problems with in the past. And I think in general it kind of plays into a slight over reliance on a lot of those upper tier mons that might kind of hinder them because like I think Zapdos is a valuable mon, but it might kind of be slotted into more support roles because it's also one of the only pivoters. Same with Cyclozar, although that's kind of its thing. But it might kind of slot those mods into the same roles each week to an extent, which I don't like. But I think overall, I agree with you guys, and it's like it's a very scary team. Like it would not be an enjoyable team to play against. So yeah,
Yeah, I can agree to that. The reason why I didn't bring it up too much is because Zapdos is a mon that typically doesn't mind running defog, in my opinion. And same thing with Ferrothorn and Hazards. But I totally get what you mean. Sometimes just even having that option there would be better than having no option at all. Alright, if we're done with Handy, let's move on to our next coach. It's me. It's Hunky. So I'll just like talk to you about my team process, or like team building process for this draft. So basically, I saw Latios in tier B. That's it. No, I'm fucking around a little bit. I did rate myself a little bit higher, significantly than a lot of the other coaches. I think I fuck with this team a lot. I got Latios pick one. I think it's a monster, tier B, and I built a solid offensive core around it with Mega Scizor and Iron Hands, in my opinion. I think Tinglu is a really good defensive Pokemon to pair with Latios, switching into potential ghost moves, and put any potential Dracos, etc. Iron Hands covers, I guess, the bug weakness a little bit between those two. I have Crobat as like a speedy remover. I always wanted to use this Pokemon, and I'm really excited to try it. I also wanted to try Primarina. I think it in Tier C is pretty valuable. Water Fairy, really good typing. Arcanine, I Terra, Fire, Terra Normal. I think Terra Fire is just good for that immediate power. Terra Normal for E speed, just a nice priority. It can be defensive and pair well with Primarina and Tingu, something I guess like Crobat and Licky Licky too. God Licky Licky. I love this one so much, dude. I think it's gonna be really important because my team is pretty bulky. Having that wish support for hands and Tingu, especially which don't really have much recovery other than like rest, is really important. Same thing with Heal Bell for again hands, Mega Scizor, um, and I guess now pinch Tinglu if it gets like burn or something or toxic or something. I think Revroom is an amazing Terry Cap. I have a college league I'm in, and I got kill leader with it because of free Terra Revroom. That thing is an amazing Pokemon. I'm really excited to try it. And for my E tiers, the only Pokemon I really wanted to try again was Bramble. I had a fun time with it in Wi-Fi, and it was like surprisingly really strong. So I just want to try an E tier with Terra, see how hard I can hit on. I have Lapras and Stunfisk. Lapras was just there to pad out a few other um weaknesses in my team. At the moment, I kind of forgot what, but I promise I drafted it for a reason. Stunfix was there because I didn't really have much of a electric switching other than Reverum, and Reverum might be able to Terra. So Stunfix was there to prevent any flying spam. I also do have Wind Rider, and the only Pokemon that is weak to flying in Bramble. So flying spam shouldn't be too much of a problem, at least in theory. I have a good amount of momentum with Flip Turn in Primarina and Latios, Volt Switch, in Iron Hands, U-Turn, and Crobat, and Mega Scizor. Mega Scizor and Arcanine are like really strong priority with Bullet Punch and Terra Normal E-Speed respectively. Well, the Rockers, the Hazard Slurs aren't too much, but Tinglu is a Pokemon that typically likes to run Stealth Rock all the time. And I do have two Spikers. The Reverum doesn't really run Toxic Spikes too much, but I can run that a few times, and I don't think Toxic Spikes is especially important to this team. Removal wise, it's just Licky, not Licky, Bramblegast for the Rapid Spin on Defog in Mega Scissor Latios and Crobat. Realistically, it's only gonna be Crobat that is gonna run Defog, and it doesn't mind running Defog too much of the time. Um, I think another thing similar to my Wi-Fi season is that all my Pokemon can either have momentum or they have immunities. Mega Scizor immune to it's a steel type, so steel immunities from poison. Latios Levitate, Iron Hands has momentum, Tinglu immunity as a dark type and a ground type. Crobat, U-turn, Primarina, again, both actually momentum and immunity to dragon, Arcanine Flash Fire, and I guess teleport. Licky, Reverum, Bramble Gas, Lapras, Stunfisk all have immunities. So, and Reverum has Punish Shot. A weakness I did notice with my team, the speed tiers, the speed tier between Crobat and Latios is a little bit there's a little bit of a gap there, but I feel like I can easily adjust that. Or I guess I can work around it. I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on this team.
I can go ahead and take it here. I honestly probably should have rated this team a little bit higher. I think the biggest, like, I love a lot of this team. I'm a big Iron Hands believer. I think Latios at tier B is just insane, is really, really good. Huge Tinglu believer. Back in like Gen 7, I would draft Crobat every single draft because it's flying spam, it's removal, it's just fast. I think you did a really good job with your lower tier picks. I think Revavroom not being the only steel type is extremely important. And it also provides something that Scizor doesn't, which means it's resistant to rock, it's resistant to flying. So I think this is probably one of the best situations for Revavroom to actually succeed in. Brambleghast, we saw how much of that was a demon in Wi-Fi last season. Pretty good. Stunfisk is pretty good. I think, yeah, the biggest thing I focused on in terms of like the negatives were that this team is going to be super reliant on Tinglu for hazards because your other hazards are Stunfisk, I think. That's it. Don't get me wrong, Tinglu is awesome setting Stealth Rocks and setting Spikes. Um, but if there's a matchup where Tinglu's bad in, which admittedly probably isn't a ton, you can probably find use for Tinglu every time. Um, it's just not as great, and Tinglu doesn't keep up the momentum that this team wants to. It's kind of a momentum sink. Um, so that was another thing, but and you don't have the greatest like removal because like Scizor doesn't want to run defog, Latios doesn't want to run defog, Crobat doesn't want to run defog, Bramble's like the only one that kind of wants to.
Really,
It's like kind
Crobat
of how
doesn't
I
want to
evaluate.
run Defog. Is that?
Um,
I never
it
used Crobat before,
it's
so
probably
yeah. Sorry.
so you want to for sure. You for sure want to run U-turn and Roost.
Mm-hmm.
And then last move can be kind of up to your discretion. So I guess Crobat is probably the one that you can get away with it the most on. Um, but yeah, it's kind of like my argument with Zapdos. It's like you never really want to run Defog because unlike Rapid Spin, Defog is kind of like you're losing momentum on the turn. Um, but I think Crobat can do it enough. And if you're hazard stacking, like I've always like lived under the philosophy that if you can hazard stack your opponent, then you can afford to have less less impactful removal. So I think overall this is like a really, really good team. Yeah, Latios at tier B is a great way to start off the draft, and I think you just picked Mons that are just absolutely phenomenal, like up and down the board. You picked the right Terra Captain for Arcanine. Like, thank God someone did E-Killer Arcanine. I've waited like 3 seasons for this. So yeah, overall, like a really fantastic team.
Okay.
Yeah, big fan of the team. I rated it quite highly. Similar reasons Hunky pointed out, but I did give some deduction in points for hazards, as Hutch mentioned. I don't see Stunfisk being a week in, week out bring, especially since you have that iron hands as well as you have that Tinglu. Yeah, so I don't see Stunfisk coming that often. Hazard removal. I mean, Crobat could get away with it. Usually, you'd probably run U-turn, Roost, a flying stab move, and either Super Fang, Taunt. You could probably run Defog if you want, or even Toxic. So you have that option for the fort move slot. But again, it might be hard to fit in Defog week in, week out unless you compromise a set. Uh, in terms of momentum, team has pretty good momentum. U-turn on Scizor on Crobat, Volt Switch on Iron Hands. Could be a little more. Parting Shot as well is a really nice to have on the room. I'm really excited to see that in action. I was planning on drafting it myself, so I'm really glad someone took it. A really nice team, all in all. A good wish support, really, really key. Heal bell options as well. Arcanine, Terra, really nice. Good synergy all around. I can see a logic to wanting to drop these mons. They pair up together really well, most of them. Yeah, maybe just need another hazard, more reliable hazard sets, maybe. But other than that, really like this team.
Yeah, you guys, once again, I'm really just farming this fourth spot. I kind of like it. I think it's interesting. I think it'll be a little reliant on Crobat, uh, mainly just because of the speed. Obviously a lot of like support value, U-turn, um, defog. So it'll be interesting, especially since you said you've never used it before. Um, but other than that, um, and that's not even really a critique. It's more of just like I'm interested in seeing how it'll go. But other than that, I don't really have anything else. I hope you continue the strong legacy of Licky Licky in the ASL. Um, maybe one of the most impactful mons. So that's all I gotta say. There's a little bit of pressure in that regard.
Yeah, I agree with that. Actually, that's definitely fair critique. I am excited to see how much work Crobat and Godlicky can put. All right, let's move on to our next coach, Brad. I can take the lead on this one since I did face Brad week one. So Brad he was our ASL champion last season. Really strong coach, and I feel like his team builds around Victini and Mega Aggron pretty well. He has a good amount of rockers, I believe, in that Mega Aggron again, but also Mesprit and Donphan. It's a good, kind of good spikes user in Ogerpon Wellspring. I rarely see spikes on it, but it's definitely still plausible set. T spikes on Tentacruel is pretty cool. Pun intended. Rapid spin, really good rapid spinners again in that Tentacruel and Donphan. Uh, Lots of good momentum too. We got of course U-turn and Victini, Roaring Moon. You got Sylveon Baton Pass. You got U-turn again with Mesprit, Flip turn with Tentacruel. Volt Switch, Rotom Fan, Executor, Lola, and Girder don't really have momentum. Uh, hmm. Something I really fuck with is Terracaps too. Porygon Z, amazing Terracap with adaptability, Terra Normal just killed something. Even download the analytic, depending on the opponent, can put in a lot of work. Roland Fan and Executor are really good Terra Caps. I think this is a slight missed opportunity to Terra instead of Executor maybe Terra the Mesprit. I think Mesprit is an excellent Terra Cap at D tier. I seen it in LTM put in a lot of work with Addison. Overall, really strong team. Uh, some flaws. There's no Pokemon base 120 speed. One Roaring Moon is pretty fast though, so maybe it's not like too bad of a flaw. I feel like Ghost Spam is also pretty solid against the team once that Roaring Moon goes down. You do have the Porygon, but sometimes the Porygon isn't exactly the bulkiest normal, and there's a small possibility to Terra Ghost. Do you guys have any thoughts?
I mean, it's Brad. Like, what's even the point of rating his team? But I think going into it, like, I know that he wanted to build around Victini, and I think he did that really well. Hutch can probably comment on that better than me. But I agree with a lot of the things you said. I think it'll be interesting to see how he uses Porygon. Like, that's kind of a scary Terra Cap that I have. And I think a lot of it just works really well. I definitely agree with the speed. I feel like he's kind of in a similar spot to Hutch's team, where there's maybe a little bit worse to be honest, but still kind of those issues. There's just he has a great variety of support too, and I think a decent amount of ways to beat you, just considering how well of a coach he is. And you can already see from his week 1 battle too, like he's gonna make really good use out of his Mons and his Terra Captains. So I think that'll be fun. And I don't know, I personally am like hyped for this fucking Executor. So that's all I'm gonna say. But
Hutch, you had some
those
experience
Fuck the
with.
palm tree.
Yeah,
Okay,
say.
listen, I feel personally attacked by this entire team because I lost season 18 to this fucking palm tree looking motherfucker. And of course, he drafted my favorite mon of all time, Victini. So I rated this team at an 8.7, which I should have given it a 10, to be fair. Um, I think I think it's a pretty good team. I think Moon and B makes it actually usable. I'm a Moon hater. I drafted it last season. I didn't use it for the first 2 weeks, and then I was looking down the list, and I didn't see a matchup for it until week 9, so I dropped it. Um, I think it's a lot better in Tier B. Obviously, gets access to booster energy. Mega Aggron, Sylveon, extremely good. And yeah, I think we saw from Brad's week 1 game where this team has a lot of mons that really just need one thing cleared out each game. Like Roy Moon needs the fairy type cleared out, Victini needs the dragon or the fire cleared out, Ogerpon needs the grass cleared out, and then they just start going crazy. And I think this team complements it very well. Like Porygon Z goes extremely well. This Terra Captain with Mega Aggron and Roaring Moon. They can play off each other pretty well. I think Brad's free agent moves that he made were really good. I think Mesprit got Pain Split. I know Uxie did. So Mesprit's really, really good in D tier. Tentacruel and Donphan for reliable hazards. Again, the stupid fucking tree. Really good Terra Captain. It's pretty bulky. Rotom Fan's an awesome Terra Captain too. So he doesn't use a D tier Terra Captain, but I honestly think that would have made his draft worse. I think he made his draft better by choosing those as his tier E's. So he was very deliberate in like what he was doing. And I think this team will get the most out of something like Victini because, like I said, I have a lot of experience with Victini. You don't like the fire types, you don't like the dragon types. Well, you have Ogerpon and Sylveon to clear them out. It's perfect. And then there's a lot of ways to get rid of fairy types for Moon. You have Mega Aggron, Tentacruel to some degree. Victini is a really easy swap into a lot of fairy types. So I think, yeah, like Malone said, what's the point of us rating? Brad's going to win a championship anyways. So, I mean, we could give him a 4. He'd still win it. This is an awesome team.
Yeah, I think pretty much that. Anyone else with this team, I would have my doubts, but it's Brad, so even though it's a good team, yeah, I expect him to win with his team. Maybe even go undefeated. One thing I'd say about this team, it could be nice to have another spin blocker. There's no ghost type on his team. Really nice hazard setting options for him. So spin blocker would be nice. Maybe tad of a potential weakness to a fire type that also has access to ground moves like Scorching Sands. But nothing too serious that he needs to worry about. But everything else just gels together really well, and he's got a bit of everything. And Monset can do one role really well or multiple roles really well. So yeah, very solid team, fun team, a Brad team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree completely. This is definitely Brad team. Brad like prides himself in mons. He can really like super versatile mons that can all be win cons. And like you guys mentioned before, once something is clear, the other mon can go absolutely crazy. I experienced that with the Hogapon once the Crowbat went down. It just beat my entire team. So it's definitely a really Brad team. He's gonna get Brad million kills, and yeah. I think we can move on to our next coach, who our ASL Wi-Fi Season 1 champion and Season 2 Wi-Fi runner-up. So this team has Fluttermane. I know that's like everyone, literally every league but the ASL thinks Fluttermane is wild, and I think it's super strong. But with no booster energy, maybe it can be allowable since I did use it last ASL season, and I put in a decent amount of work, but not too much for it to go. Oh shit, this thing needs to be bannable. Maybe that's just speaking to my usage as Fluttermane, but we'll see. Cause who was cracked? And I'm really scared for his Fluttermane usage. He has a really good use of his Terror Caps, I feel too, with Moltres and with Terra Fire, Terra Ground. Those Terra Burn Ups or defensive Terra Grounds are gonna be crazy. I think Wu Jin is an amazing defensive Terra Captain. I'm surprised not much people use him more. I guess just don't have the opportunity to use him more. Avalok also a really good defensive Terra Captain because it can Terra into a real type. He just builds this team around Fluttermane really well. Meowscarada, I used the Fluttermane Meowscarada combo last season. It's really nice. Lots of Meowscarada can bring in Fluttermane. Set up hazards or just get rid of potential mana too for Fleming to clear up afterwards. Slowking Galler again. Speaking of momentum, this thing is amazing. With Fleming can get it in really nicely. Zygarde in tier B, I think is Latios level value. I think that mana is really good. For priced in tier B, again like good defensive Pokemon again with those Terracots and Uchen Avalon, but also in Moltres and Alomola Fortress double, I guess. Good amount of rockers, I think. Oh no, it's just the Fortress. I guess Fortress is a solid rocker. He has 3 spikes users and Vespa Quinn, Miascarada. Fortress, 4 toxic spikes in Spikers, Vespa Quinn, Slowking, Galler, Miascarada, Fortress, 2 Wish Passers, Alola Mola, and what's your list? I mean, Flamerate's not gonna be running Wish, let's be real. Decent amount of momentum, again, Alola Mola, Flip Turn, Volt Switch, Fortress, U-turn again, Moltres, Miascarada, and Vespiquen, I guess. And then, of course, I forgot to mention the big thing: Ninetales, Ninetales and Fluttermane. That's gonna be, uh, it's gonna be dangerous, especially because unlike mine last season where I had Mega Charizard Y and Fluttermane, Ninetales can run Heat Rock or Boots. He has good removal too. Rapid Spin in Fortress, Avalugg, pretty solid Defog and Moltres and Vespiquen. But that's where the flaws come in a little bit. I still don't really understand why Vespiquen is there. I feel like all of its roles are filled by Pokemon that can do it better. There is a bit of rock spam with this team. When Zygarde does go down, I think it could go crazy. Fires for him is a bit of an issue too, but you also have Moltres and Lolamola, so it's not too big of a deal. This team has no flying resist, which again is pretty sucky. But again, you can like tear Avalog or Wuchen into something to combat that. Uh, there is also a speed gap between Meow, Scarada, and Ninetales that isn't really the best. I think that's all I have. Do you guys have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I rated this team. So sorry. I rated this team a bit lower than everyone else. Strengths of this team, attacking wise, there's nothing you can really say. It's top tier. It's premium. You have that Miascarado, which is amazing, and the Fluttermane, which is really scary to deal with. That Zygarde can set up really well. It's really reliable all the time. Uh, but my main issues with this team is when it comes to the defensive side of things. As you said earlier, I briefly touched on, it's very flying weak. There are no flying resists, so you have to somewhat rely on, if it's a physical flying type, you have to rely on the Alomomola. If it's a special, you have to rely on the Glow King, or you could Terra. But I kind of see this as potentially a way to set up on this team, which might be a weakness of this team. So it might be something you can look into. He has no electric type on his team, which could probably do. He could probably replace a Vespiquen in a good electric type. That would be really good. Team's a bit bulk beam weak. Um, no real mono likes to switch into either. So his defoggers, Moltres and Vespiquen are both 4-time weeks to rock, so a knockoff away from being unusable. Besides Zygarde, actually, nothing really likes to take rocks. No fighting type on this team. Might be an issue, but he's got plenty of power in that Fluttermane and Miascarada, so it shouldn't affect him too much, I should assume. But we'll see. Yeah, big fan of that Zygarde, Miascarada, Glow King, and of course, Fluttermane. Other than that, um, slight question marks for me.
Yeah, so I'll just be brief here. I rated this draft extremely highly, and it's more so that it's a perfect Who draft. Like he plays very bulky, so I'm legitimately terrified to play Slowking Alamomola because we've seen what he can do with Alamomola. He won the season one championship with it in Wi-Fi, as well as Meowscarada, which was nicknamed the Blood God because it just absolutely shredded every week. Obviously, this is Nat deck, so it's a little bit different. Um, but yeah, I fully expect Slowking, Galar, and Alamomola to be just terrorizing every single week because they're just so ridiculously hard to kill. And then I think Zygarde is such a nice touch on this team for such a high tempo Meowscarada, Fluttermane, Slowking, Alamomola. Once you get all this week, you can do E-Killer Zygarde. You can just go ahead and set up with Coil or D-Dance. Like, Zygarde is insane in B tier. Like you were saying, Ian, I think you kind of fucked around in the low tiers. Like, the Vespiquen doesn't really make a lot of sense. Doubles, like, okay, I guess, and then Ninetales, I get that it's for Fluttermane, but I kind of think that's kind of a waste of a slot most weeks. So I think he just fucked around towards the later part of the draft, but I know what he's capable of. I know how he likes to play, and this is like a perfect suited draft for him. So I'm okay with the top half if the bottom half isn't as bad, or if it's not as up to snuff.
Yeah, I have like nothing to add. You guys hit pretty much everything on the head, and like my one point was gonna be the Ninetales, which you kind of, but well, you did say, and this is also like really minor, but like it also kind of is a little funky if you want to go Chili Reception, which I think is a really good value move for the Slowking. It has I don't know, Chili Reception synergizes super well with this team, which is fine. Like it's really that is not much of an impact. It's still a value move. But yeah, I don't really like Ninetales here. But other than that, I fully agree. I don't have anything else to add. This is kind of a terrifying team.
Yeah, similar to Brad, I think who's a top three coach in this league. He's a super capable uh coach. I think that it's weird because I agree with all the weaknesses Ian said, but I also agree with Hutch a lot. This is a super who's who team. He can. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much weaknesses you have. Who is actually like cracked? He's you've seen his Wi-Fi games. I've seen him in a bunch of different leagues. I think he won like 3 championships back to back in like 2 weeks, which is kind of insane. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm so scared. I'm so scared to see how crazy this team is. I think if I had to pick two coaches, honestly, it might have come down to Brad versus who for finals, but maybe I'm being a little bit too preemptive there. We'll see how it goes. Okay, let's move on to our next coach, Flash, and the Flash Floppers. So with this team, something I noticed right off the bat was that um, it just has a lot of my favorite Pokemon I fuck with. If I'm gonna be real, Iron Treads is awesome. It's like my favorite Draftmon ever. I have a lot of good memories with it. There, you have 6 Stealth Rockers: Regirock, Miltank, or actually 5. Excuse me: Regirock, Miltank, Iron Treads, Infernape. I love Infernape too. Azov I think is a really valuable C tier. Um, some other things I like, lots of momentum. Volt Switch. Let's just go over this real quick. Volt Switch, U turn. I guess like baton pass, kind of. Flip turn. Um, I don't see, but like doesn't get parting shot actually. Okay, but like all the months that he's likely to bring top 6 every week has a ton of momentum. Um, what else? What else? What else? Good amount of knockoff users. Got the Zeraora, Sableye, Muck, um, Iron Treads, and Fernie Azov, which again I think synergizes really well to the amount of rockers he has. No spikers, and the only T spiker is Muck, but I think that's fine. Honestly, I don't think as long as you have like one or the other. I would probably appreciate one more, but I think just the rocks alone make it kind of evens it out kind of. Not sure too much about that actually. Um, Rapid Spin with Iron Treads and Defog and Togekiss is going to be your only removal. I would say you probably need one or two more removal, but honestly, Iron Treads is a mon you're going to bring every week. And there's barely, and I mean like very, very few sets where you don't run Rapid Spin. So I'm not sure if it's too big of an issue, especially because Treads resist rocks anyway. Some flaws with this team. I think Edgequake kind of really destroys this team a lot. I think it's actually insane. Rock Spam in general is pretty crazy once you get the treads down. There is a big speed gap between Zeraora and Asif, but again, it's a Zeraora. You can't really measure speed too much. Maybe this team would appreciate maybe like 120 base point one. Yeah, okay, that's the notes I have. Do you guys have anything else to add?
I
Yeah,
have
I mean, I'll
this
just.
kind of high. Sorry, I'll
No, go ahead. You're
I'll
good.
be brief because like I mainly just in hindsight maybe I shouldn't have rated this high. I was a little biased. A couple of St. Louis Swablues legends, and then Fernape for Alligator.
Fuck off, Gator.
Fucking Terragator. I don't know why I didn't think to do that, but I'm very excited. But yeah, I think overall I just really it just looks nice. Like who cares about fucking synergy and stats? Just like look at the team. Like it just looks like it's gonna fuck you up, you know? Um, great point there. But yeah, I do agree with a lot of the drawbacks, and in hindsight, yeah, I mean like the removal is not. They're good removers, but you know. And I also had that point on being Edgequake weak, so I will say maybe I rated this one a bit too high, especially like compared to my other ratings. I definitely don't think I did that well, but I do really like this team. So that's my quick point.
Yeah, so I'll be quick here too. I actually think the removal's perfectly fine. Generally, you only are running one bit of removal each week, and Treads is the best removal in the game. I think it's better than Grey Tusk. That's my hot take. But I think the typing of Iron Treads and the fact that it can just be pure utility a lot of weeks, as well as having a better typing, I think Treads is easily the best hazard control in the entire game. We have a lot of ASL legends. We have the kill leader in Infernate. Zera Aura's been used pretty well. For Alligator's gotten its use. That was definitely Lily was definitely in Flash's ear on that pick, for sure. Um, I already know it. I gave this an 8.5. I would have probably give this somewhere in the nines if he picked Uxie instead of Azelf, because I'm looking at this team and I love the offense. Zera Aura, Kira, Treads, Infernape for Alligator. Oh, we're cooking. That is insane. But ironically, in his in his week 1 game, um, this team just doesn't have a lot of bulk. Togekiss, great. Other than that, Miltank, niche, Regirock. He's obsessed with Regirock, but it's niche. Sableye, niche, Muck, niche, Go-Go, niche. Like, I don't understand what Azelf is doing on this team. Um, I get that it's a versatile special attacker. I guess, but I feel like Uxie, especially with its buffs getting pain split, Uxie is like insanely good right now. And I think it just kind of pairs well with Togekiss, like you guys said. Like Edgequake is pretty good into this team, so I think that would have propelled this into over a 9 because I think the offense is like genuinely almost perfect. Um, I just really wish the defense was a little bit better. That's really my only big critique. I think everything was pretty good. Like Terra Captains are really good and low tier picks are pretty good. So
Yeah, that's about it really. I just need to. I think I rated it a bit too high, but the offense is incredible. Probably might be one of my favorites this season. Defense wise, questionable, but yeah. Let's see how he makes it work. I think you guys hit the nail on the head many times with Edgequake being the main weakness of this team, and he does have some options to trade to make up for that. But I would say the team in itself looks really fun.
Not gonna lie, I thought my rating was yours, so I don't know why you guys didn't fucking call me out for my yapping about the rankings, but anyways, continue.
I thought you were just being extra harsh.
Uh, dude, this team is just awesome. Like, all these Pokemon. Who hates any of these Pokemon? I guess Zeraora, but
Yeah.
I like Zeraora. I think,
I like
yeah,
Zero.
I love Miltank. I love Infernape, Treads. I'm so excited to see if this team is gonna like perform well. Okay, let's move on to our next coach. Return from our Wi-Fi division and is our first timer in our Napix division. It's Godbear. Do you guys have any thoughts, or should I get started?
Maybe I can give it a start since I rated it 8.2 and a bit lower than everyone else. I do like the team in essence. However, I do feel there's some really good positives about this team. I really like the Dragapult. I think everyone does. It's no brainer really to pick it up at where he did in the draft. Mega Guard, incredible pick. One of my favorite mods, especially with Sticky Webs and Vikavolt. It could really put in its name in the ring to be kill leader by the end of the season. Uh, Nido Queen, always reliable. King Gambit, I'm quite interested to see. Seems to me like his team is somewhat reliant on the King Gambit in terms of the resist it gives. So interested to see how that works out. In terms of his hazard setting options, he has some good options with Nido Queen and the King. Nido Queen, especially being the most reliable. King Gambit can get it as well. Sand Slash as well. Spikes, he has options with the Quillfish and Sand Slash. He also has Toxic Spikes options with Nido and Quillfish. Uh, Removal, he has defog options, but I don't really see Swallow, no Charizard running defog really. Rapid Spin, the Sand Slash, as well as Zarina. I would say Zarina might be a weekly bring. Maybe some places where you could improve is you could have a more reliable defogger, one that could come in and week out, and without compromising its most optimal set. Uh, Good U-turn and Volt-turn options as well. Wish options with Gardevoir. I don't expect to see him bring Wish Gardevoir at any point. My main issue with his team is nothing really likes to take a special hit. Gardevoir can do, but you don't really want to run it, especially bulky, when you can just run it as a monster special attacker. Yeah, lots of holes appear. King Gambit's gone. Psychic, Flying Dragon goes. All some suddenly become really scary for this team. He has some good, really top end speed when it comes to Dragapult, Swallow, Keldeo, so I'll give him that. Really impressive. Really like the Vikavolt as well. Uh, yeah, other than that, I think defogging is something he really needs to look into.
Yeah, I agree completely. I feel like Gambit is kind of pigeonholed to a defensive role, and it's really an offensive steal. Just Gambit on its own, usually I'm not a big fan in drafts, to be honest. But I can see it putting a decent amount of role here. If Gambit is usually drafted, I would honestly prefer a secondary steal, even like a low tier steal. But again, yeah, this Gambit it really has to put in a lot of work. Defensively, another weakness I had with this team that, or I should say, I noticed with this team. Again, the ghost spam is like kind of um kind of a thing. I know there is that swallow, but again, it's not really a defensive. Um, it's not really defensive normal. It's rather it prefers to be offensive, especially with like boom burst shenanigans and its speed tier. And so that means Gambit again has to like really get pigeonholed into that defensive role. I think this team really would like a second steal to help out Gambit a little bit. Flying spam is also a thing with the Gambit once again being the only resist. Uh, what else? I mean, Dragon is a little bit less of a problem. Same thing with Psychic. You do have a couple more resists, but it's still a little bit of a weakness. Onto some positives though. I really fuck with his Terra Caps. I think Charizard is a really good E tier Terra Cap. Sometimes it can just like nuke shit with Terra Fire. Against Swallow, really good Terra Cap with Terra Normal Boom Burst. You could do something fun with Guts Swallow too. Um, something Regidrago, amazing Terra Cap. That thing is so strong. It's so strong with Terra Dragon, or if you want to have a defensive profile in Terra Steel. And the speed tiers, honestly, I had initially had issue with a little bit of speed tiers. I feel like they're spaced out a little too much, but now that I'm looking at it, I don't think it's too bad, especially because you do have web support. Hutch Malone, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I agree. The one thing I like wrote down was like it was I fully agree about the King Gambit. I think it actually plays well into just everything else on his team dying, so Gambit can fucking just go off with Supreme Overlord. But yeah, I really don't have anything else to add. I think you guys kind of hit the major points.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
agree.
mean, like we saw it week one, like it was just an offensive shootout. And that's pretty much what this team looks like. Like you said, King Gambit is pretty much just gonna be a defensive piece each week because I mean Nidoqueen has some bulk. Like Ian said, Serena is gonna be a must bring almost every single week. Because this team is extremely ground weak otherwise. Little fairy weak. Like you said, Hunky, I would like another steel type on this team. Don't really know why the Sand Slash is here, but pop off, I guess. Um, yeah, so overall, like a pretty good team. Like I've used the Dragapult King Gambit core before. It's not as good as you think it would be. Just because the speed difference between the two, I think, is like pretty rough in terms of like getting them to like work in tandem. But overall, not bad. Got a lot of good mons on it. So yeah. And I'll start this next one actually because I just played it.
All right.
So next up,
All right.
we have the Duke Blue Dooms by Insomniac Cricket. And this team getting Shen Pao at pick 10 is just stupid. Because as I said when we were on mine, I think Shen Pao, Dragapult, and Gouging are the three best mons in format. Well, ironically, Dragapult and Shen Pao went 9 and 10. And I think at first glance, this team is insane. Like Shen Pao, Scizor, Latias, Quaquaval, they're all insanely good. He gets to use the Torterra Terra Captain, which is really good. I am a Mega Kang hater. I think the Mon sucks, but it's a little bit. It's not as bad as I thought. I mean, it basically saved him the game against me. Still ended up losing, but he would have lost a lot quicker had Mega Kang not paralyzed my gouging. Um, Rock Midnight, solid. I think Terra Gardevoir is super slept on. That Mon is insane. Delphox, don't know what we were thinking there. We already have Latias and Gardevoir. Plus, Gardevoir does the same thing as Delphox, so that was interesting. Avalugg, Free Terra, really, really good. I think Electabuzz is pretty slept on, and then Dusclops isn't too bad. So I think other than like the Mega Kang and the Delphox, I kind of like every pick in this team. But the biggest issues arise from the fact that his special offense is so one-dimensional. Like his only like prevalent special offense is Latias, Gardevoir, and Delphox, which are all three psychic types. So yes, they do different things. Like Latias has insane coverage. They all three have really good coverage, but you're just going to be kind of pigeonholed into losing to the same things. Um, like a good ghost type or a good normal type is going to beat all three of your like special mons to where it's like you can just dedicate one mon to dealing with all of them as I did with Mew. Mew just beat all of them, so I didn't have to prep as hard for them. You can prep more for Shenpao and Quackleval and stuff like that. So I really, really wish the Delphox was something else, because I think the special offense is again just it's just too one dimensional in this team. I think his hazard options are also not good. Um, his hazard options are Torterra, Lycanroc Midday, and Avalugg. I think Avalugg is probably going to have to come a lot on this team. Um, because Lycanroc, I mean, it'll be Lycanroc or Avalugg, but one of them probably has to come most weeks. Because if you're bringing Torterra just to be bulky a lot of the time, I don't think that's the best use of your resources, especially when he's not Terra Fairy. So overall, I think it's a pretty good team. There's a lot of scary offense here. I just think he's a little bit one-dimensional on the special side of things.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with everything you said. I did rate this team a little bit higher. I just feel like sometimes when you spam that physical offense, as long as you have that one mon that is a little bit specially offensive, I guess in this case it's to the Terra, Gardevoir, and Latias, that physical offense can really pressure down teams, especially with excellent priority. Ice Shard and those top three, Ice Shard, Sucker Punch, Pow, Bullet Punch, Scizor, Aqua Jet, I guess, and Quackleval. And I guess in a whole pit in a whole vacuum wave on Gardevoir and of course Rock on Lycanroc. Some other aspects I noticed with this team, the hazard setters aren't Pokemon you're good at. It's Torterra and Lycanroc. That's it for hazards. Torterra, you're wasting a move slot if you're running a more offensive variant, which is something you would probably like more with Terra Electric or Terra Ground. I think Terra Electric is fine with the limited Terra Cap system we have here. It's a good mid ground between an offensive and defensive Terra type. Lycanroc can red style rocks, but I'm not sure if Lycanroc is a Pokemon you want to bring every week. There's also a decently big speed gap between PAL and Lycanroc, which is exacerbated further if you're not bringing Lycanroc every week, or the next Pokemon Latios, which is base 110, doesn't want to be fully wants to be defensive in some weeks, so won't even EV all too much in speed. There's also a few weaknesses. There's a water, ground, rock, ghost, and fairy weaknesses. all of which have good share resist, but I feel like eventually once one of those Pokemon defensive Pokemon go down, it's over for uh it's like the spamming that one of those set types could possibly be really strong. I'm not the biggest fan of the three psychic types in one team. I think one is definitely, or maybe like occasionally two, depending on like a late terrain team, I guess. But two is definitely more than enough. Malone, Ian, do you have any other thoughts to add?
I
Yeah, so go on, Malone.
I insist.
Okay. Positives for me for this team, Chen Pao is an amazing pick, especially so late in the draft. Basically, we fell on crack. Just hit a button and things die in front of it. I really like the Latias pick. Lycanroc, I'm really excited to see. We all saw what Midnight Form achieved last season, but I'm quite interested to see what base Lycanroc can do. Quickval, really excited for that mon as well. Always a menace. But besides that, I think a few things you guys pointed out earlier. Stealth, in terms of the hazard settings, a bit lacking. Some of these mods like Totera and like Rocky won't be bringing week in, week out. Another thing which I'm really concerned about with this team is it doesn't really like to take knockoff or drain punch or the combo of the two. So yeah, if you just spam either knockoff or drain punch, something is dying in front of you. I don't think the team needs Delphox and Gardevoir when you already have Latias. I think he's better off with fairy type, either base fairy type, that a plain fairy type that can handle knockoff and drain punch, a fire type that isn't weak to knockoff. Especially since you have that Electabuzz and Dusclops as well, they don't really fancy getting the Eviolite knocked off. That's my real concern for this team. Other than that, it seems quite fun and not that many changes away from being an excellent team, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't have a lot more to add. I think especially those, even kind of if one of the psychic types were removed, I definitely don't like the some of the ghost dark fairy weaknesses. I think those are all kind of scary. Um, there's a lot of pressure on those upper tier mons like Scissor and Latias defensively and Torterra. I think like I really like this Torterra pick, but like the team kind of runs through Torterra. Like not really because it has a lot of threats, but like I think Torterra can play a lot of different roles, and if it's used well, then I think it'll go well. But I'm not really. I don't know. I don't have a lot to add, but I think Torterra is gonna be big. I'm personally terrified of it, so that's my final point.
Okay, with that in mind, let's move on to our next coach, Malone. Malone, take it away. Let's hear about your team building process.
Um, yeah, this is a weird one. Got sniped a couple of times. Quinn basically took the team that I wanted because he drafted Coco. But that's okay. Main thing I wanted was Boulder, so um, the team kind of ended up in a weird state. I think I tried to focus on a lot of weaknesses that I've had the past couple of seasons. So team's pretty fast. Little kind of funky speed tiers, but I think it's fine personally. Um, and I like my removal options, which has been a pretty big weakness that I've had. Um, so I think those are definitely positives. Overall, it's kind of a style that I haven't used a lot because I think um, the momentum obviously is also a big plus. So there's kind of a lot of the peripherals there, but I'm not sure how well it synergizes. Like when I look at it now, I'm excited, but I'm also not the most confident. Um, so I'm definitely curious what you have to say. Another big thing was getting good use out of the lower tiers, which I think I did. Um, I think Talonflame is a pretty good role. I probably should have brought it first week, but I'm scared of the rock slide. That was my thought process there. Glastrier, that was maybe the one I just really wanted to use that. I think it'll be fun with Terra. I really like Claydol as a low tier. I think it has a lot of value, especially with Terra. Illumise, I think, eh. I could have gone a couple different ways, but it does have some roles. And kind of going into the season, I thought whoever would draft Quaxwell, like what the fuck. And here I am. And really, I don't really know. It has a couple roles that I think could be beneficial. It has spin, has momentum, but realistically, it's Quaxwell. I don't know. Yeah, like I honestly thought Quaxwell was a solid pick until I used my brain just now. So that was kind of a weird realization. But I think overall it'll be fun. It definitely has some holes, and I think you guys might know them better than me. So
Honestly, I fuck with Quaxwell a lot. I think it fits your team pretty well. It adds an extra removal option for you. It gives you a bulky water option, and that's really good in a team where Greninja is your star power. Speaking of Greninja, I think that Mon is a sleeper 8-2 pick. A lot of people sleep on Greninja, but because of the nerf it got to Balbon, I think Balbon is its best ability. It can just straight up win the games on its own. It's such a good Pokemon. Like I don't think you realize how good people realize how amazing Greninja is with Balbon. It's it's awesome. I really like your E tiers too. I mean, I guess I'm biased to Quaxwell a bit. I think defense, obviously offensively, isn't going to put much work, but if you need that bulky water option, it's actually surprisingly well. Illumise, God Illumise. I'm a Volbeat guy myself. Don't tell Dravos. Oh well, he'll see maybe
Drago's
what
kind
you
of just cyberbullied me. I'm not gonna lie.
do.
I was in a very volatile state.
But Illumise is just as good, if not better. I just like Volbeat and me have history. Uh, I'll dump that some other day in Nail Solo. But
You'll dump that another day.
dude, like it's actually pretty high.
Get it?
Shit. Anyways, Claydol really good spinner too. Really pads out that like again the spinner option again. You don't just want to have defog. Also want you also want to keep hazards on your opponent's side. So, the hazard. Speaking of, Claydol also gives you another stealth rock option. Because otherwise you would only have Sandy Shocks, and Sandy Shocks is a good stealth rocker and it's a good spiker, but as a terror cap, you often want it to be well offensive, and I think it's a really awesome terror cap in with Terra Electric for that extra oomph, or of course Terra Ice for the bolt beam coverage. Robo Mo is interesting. I think it does. Um, at first I was a little iffy on it because double electric, but I think it pairs well with Sandy Shocks well. There is that ice weakness, but again you have God Quaxwell, or for a more real answer, I guess the Glacier. Ice Spam is a little bit scary with this team, to be honest. But I feel like you can work your way around it. You do have a lot of mods that just like straight up threaten it, anyways. With Iron Boulder, Town Flame, and Mega Loft. I think Fezandipity in C tier is a little overpriced. Maybe I'm sleeping on it. I think it's an awesome value Pokemon, but I don't think the value is present here. Maybe a more bulkier fairy would have been better. But what else did it have? Oh, they had speed tiers are pretty awesome actually. There's some of the best. There are some of my like favorite speed tiers. I guess there is a gap between Sandy Shocks and Festidipity, but it's just so much speed. You have Mega Lock, Talonflame, Iron Bundle, Greninja, all above 120. Um, you do have a decent amount of speed tiers below base 100. It's just that gap between 101 and 122 that you gotta watch out for. You do also have a fuck ton of momentum. You have Talonflame, Illumise. Well, I don't know why I said Illumise. Like, it's the second best U-turn. You got Mega Lot, Greninja, Fezandipity as well. Volt Switch, Bitromo, and Sandy Shocks. Flip turn with God Quaxwell. Yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say. Some flaws I noticed with this team. Your only knockoff Pokemon is, I think Hisuian Gudra. Maybe I'm missing something. I forgot if Greninja has
Quaxwell.
knockoff. Oh, really? Wait, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
Quaxwell is
oh wow.
knockoff.
God Quaxwell, God Quaxwell, and Gudra Hisui. Maybe one more knockoff user would have been a little bit better, but your team isn't really hazard centric, so I guess it's not too big of a deal. Looking at the type chart, your team technically synergizes correctly, but I am worried about that again. Once again, the ice spam, occasionally the ghost spam, if mega lot, but you have more tools to handle it than other ghost spam weak teams because thanks to that mega lot and Scrappy and the Greninja, of course. Do you guys have anything else to add?
I quite like your team alone. Didn't really find much wrong with it. Uh, Personally, don't feel like the Quaxwell is going to be brought anytime this season, or maybe 1 to 2 games max. Find it really hard to fit into your team. You have some really good other options available, which I see are more reliable week in, week out picks. So I don't really see the Quaxwell being a reliable spinner anytime this season. Uh, I do think you could maybe swap it out for a ghost type, perhaps, which would help your team quite a bit. Uh, Other than that, I really like the um, big fan of the Megalop actually, for what it can do. Quite like your triple axle as well. The Gudra Hisui was on my watch list as well. I wanted it. Got sniped on it. Wasn't happy about it, but I can respect it. So yeah. Uh, and I think one more thing was just pointed out earlier. Your only real knockoff mon besides Quaxwell, which I don't really count as the Gudra,
Apparently,
which
it doesn't get it. By the way, I looked it up.
oh, Quaxwell doesn't get it.
Yeah,
Oh, my bad.
it's
I
not your
must have
bad.
played some hacked mons. But yeah, Gudra is so being the only knockoff user isn't it's quite limiting. So other than that, big fan of your team. Your speed tiers are incredible. Yeah, excited to see it in action.
Okay, so I'll be pretty quick here. It's ironic how much of a focal point this is being, but I actually quite like the Quaxwell.
Let's go.
I think
Let's go!
without
I love that Quaxwell is the star of this
because
company.
the biggest thing is if you take Quaxwell out of the equation, this team gets murdered by ice types. I always think that when you have a offensive Greninja or a offensive water type, God, it's a long video. It's always important to have some option down the board to be able to get like a bulky water. So I mean, I don't think it's going to come to more than like 2 games, but I like the touch there. Terra Glacier is fucking incredible, by the way. Free Terra can just blanket check anything you want in the physical side. That would have been a pretty good Ogre Pawn answer, by the way.
My team for a
You
while.
can you can basically just have it check whatever you want on the physical side, and then it's also just an awesome sweeper. Um, I don't think this team really plays into Trick Room, so it's probably not going to be on that side of things. But I don't like Trick Room, so I was a little harsh on this draft. I think a lot of it stems from these like bulk issues. Like Hisui Gudra is like awesome. It's just I don't feel like there's that one mon other than like kind of Talonflame that like really pairs well with it where you can have a nice 1-2 combo going. But this is kind of like back to like the argument of like Flash's team where it's like your offense is like insanely good. Like Greninja is super good. Boulder's nice. Megalopony's kind of a fraud this gen, but it's okay. It's a Megalopony. It's still really high end speed. Shocks will be really good. So a lot of things that I really like on this team. I think he did decent with the E-tiers too. Like I said, there's a clear defined role for every single mon on here. So yeah, overall not bad.
Yeah, before we move on, something like to point out is that Malone is proven himself. I mean, I wasn't here for ASL beforehand, But from the 2 seasons I've been playing, Malone has proven himself to be a really good, not even really good, like an amazing coach. I think on the worst position he's ever been is like semi-finalist, which is
Thank you.
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm notably like I'm one of the best in ASL
Don't check the
history. So.
Pokedex. Don't check the Pokedex.
And
Malone has only played the past 4 seasons or so.
Yeah,
and look who his
Look
co-coach
at the
is.
grit.
Look who his coach
dude,
is.
it's the co-coach buff, dude.
It's true.
The TCP. I haven't seen the Reign of TCP, but from he's an ASL legend. Uh, him plus Malone is
The
gonna
goat.
wreck shit. Malone's already like a top 5 coach, I would say, in this like roster of coaches, along with like Hutch and maybe Quinn. But with TCP, this team just got a lot scarier, dude. I'm so hyped to see what you guys cook up in the future. 12 weeks. Yeah. With that out of the way, let's move on to our next coach. Keystar. Okay,
I
so
might can I go? Cause
yeah, go ahead.
I think my power's about to shut out because I did not think the video would go this long, and my school is turning out the power.
Alright,
But
go ahead. So,
uh, so I mean, I don't know. I don't have a lot to say on this team, anyways. I think it's a little funky. I like the speed. I guess the gap between Samurai and Glalie isn't that bad, but also like those are kind of some weird mons to like Glalie is kind of a weird mon to put in that situation. Like decent hazards, decent overall support. Not like not great removal to be honest. Like from experience, I don't think you really want to be relying on uh the defoggers for Rombi and Corviknight. Although Corviknight can run it. I like the Terras. I think they pair well. Like it's a scary team. Like if you just look at that first 5 mons, 6 mons, like Ursulina Blood Moon's fun, Cinderace, Raging Bolt, the Goat. Um, Samurai Hisui will be interesting. I think that was one of the mons that Brad, like, not that he did use poorly, because he's Brad, but like I feel like he didn't showcase it as much last year. He didn't use it as much as most of the things on his team. So I kind of want to see more from that. And yeah, again, I like the Terra captains. I like Colossal a lot. I didn't think I was going to say that going into this, but I think it could serve a pretty good role, especially paired with Flashfire. I think pairing Terra captains with like abilities like Flashfire, Levitate, pretty strong. And with the hazards, removal, general being fucking lump of coal, I hope that does well. Yeah, other than that, I don't have a lot. Ground kind of not a big ground team, not a big edge quake team, but Corviknight exists, Sinistcha exists. Um, what else? Oh yeah, and I do think it's a little special heavy, kinda. Like as scary as those mons are, I don't know if there's any kind of plug and play physical mon. Maybe Mega Glalie. I think Mega Glalie could be a pretty pivotal mon, especially given the speed tiers and shit. So that's my pitch. I might randomly disconnect any second now.
alright, Godspeed then Malone. I agree with a lot of points you said. Edgequake is a big weakness of this team. I kind of slightly disagree on the physical end. I think Cinderace plus Hammerot and then Mega Glalie and Hariyama are enough. Maybe I get what you mean though. Maybe that extra move. I don't know what could be replaced to help like get that feeling. The only rocker in this team is Colossal. The only spikes are your E tiers, and the only other hazard removal, I mean hazards are T-Spec, Scarbador, and Sticky Webs, Ribombi. So maybe I would like to see a team with a little bit. Oh wait, no, forget what I said. You have a hammer. What am I saying? All right, okay, never mind, never mind. Momentum in this team is pretty good. Volt Switch, Raging Bull, U-Turn, Ribombi, Corviknight, Cinderace, flip turn, hammer on. Something this is just a me thing. Whenever I draft a team with hammer out though, I would like to have like a secondary more defensive water. I don't like using hammer as my only water at all. What else? Blood Moon I think is an amazing pick. I really fuck with that mon a lot. Really it just doesn't have much switch-ins at all, and it's going to get nuked by so many things. Unironically, one of the best switches to Blood Moon, Corvin Knight, is taken by Keystar, so that's funny. I think since she is an amazing Terra Cap, I really want to use that Pokemon one day for sure. Espeon and Colossal are also decent for Terra for where it's at. I think the E tiers, although they're not exactly like best spikers, I think overall they're pretty solid for their value as eaters. Colossal again fills a lot of roles as the only rocker of the group, a spinner, just a defensive check to a few types, uh, like flying, for example. Mega Glalie, I think, is one of the strongest E tiers. I think that mon is super slept on. And Garbiter gives this team grounded poison, which is always useful. Do you guys have any thoughts? Or any other thoughts?
No, I think you and Malone pretty much said everything. Bit week 2 rock and ground types, which isn't too nice. Other than that, the top 5 mons are really nice. Trick Room, Access on Sinisha and Espeon is pretty nice for the Ursaluna. Other than that, I'm I can see where he's going with it. The Ribombi is nice with sticky webs to free up some other mons to really come to the front. But I don't know. I'm not fully excited beyond the first 5 to 6 months. Yeah, we'll see.
Okay. Yeah. All right. If that's all we have, I guess we can move on. Unless Hutch, do you have anything else to say?
I have a couple things here. I think Blood Moon is a nuclear warhead. That thing is legitimately insane. I like the pairing with Cinderace. You made a good point. Corviknight is like probably the only thing that reliably swaps into Blood Moon, other than like Bronzong is kind of good at it. Basically, just like steel types that are immune to ground. That's kind of the way you deal with Blood Moon. Um, yeah, I think this is like it's a pretty good draft. I rated it pretty highly. I like Hammerot. Um, Raging Bolt in round 6 is stupid, by the way. Um, I legitimately debated doing Raging Bolt on my gouging team. But yeah, I think he made good use of everything top to bottom. Garbodor, not bad. Megalele pretty good. Colossal is a solid Terra Captain. Espeon's a great Terra Captain. Sinistra's a great Terra Captain. So I think he just kind of like maximized like everything that I would have really wanted him to. He's a little bit fairy weak. Um, like fairies with like some coverage to hit Corviknight might be a little bit scary. But yeah, I think overall the goal of this team is Cinderace, Corviknight, Raging Bolt, and Hammerot. They're going to be setting the stage for Blood Moon to just reap the rewards of just getting kills. Because obviously, Hammerot is arguably the best hazard setter in the game. Depending on how you look at that, Corviknight's going to be the best way to get Blood Moon into the game. Yeah, so I think overall this is a really, really good team, and I like the touch of webs here because Raging Bolt is going to be very much appreciating the webs as well as Blood Moon. So, I mean, I will always be a big fan of Blood Moon. Just got it in Relicanth Division, and yeah, I think this is a pretty good draft for Keister.
Yeah.
And I would like to start on the next one because this
Oh
is my
boy.
favorite team of the draft.
Okay. Yeah. I am hyped to talk about one of my favorite
Okay.
characters. Let's go.
Okay, we have the Shining Iron Dancers, coached by Quinn. I gave this a 9.5. I could have justified giving it a 10. I would have been pretty okay giving it a 10 because I think this is the best offensive team. I am a huge Coco lover. Coco, Hydra, Buzzwole, Iron Moth, Ogre Ponteal. Like, what more could you want from this team offensively? And then he wraps it up with a pretty good defensive core, in all things considered, in Swampert, Orthworm, and Meloetta, which there's some like opportunities for like Buzzwole. Has a really good defensive typing, has a really high physical defense stat. Um, Hydra is I actually really like bulky Hydra. Um, this is just a team that I wanted Coco to be drafted for so long, and Malone said this earlier. Like Quinn basically took the idea of what Malone wanted to do with like Coco and Moth, and Malone wanted to put it with Boulder and all that. This team is fucking incredible. My biggest knocks are I think Mega Bayonet and Detour is really bad. I don't think Mega Bayonet's very good.
Oh no! Oh
Um,
no! Okay, you haven't.
oh, you like Mega Bayonet?
Oh,
Okay,
dude,
well,
dude, you know what? I'll like Quinn loves Mega
we'll get
Banana
there.
to the point where I'll let you finish. Actually, go ahead.
Yeah, we'll have that conversation when we get to you. I think Mega Bayonet is too slow. I think it has some interesting ideas with like Prankster. It could like take a Mon out of the game with Destiny Bonds. So I think it has some options. I just think I would have preferred. I think Miss Magius was still there, which I would far prefer. I don't love Gorbis. I don't love Baractus. So I think he kind of. I think Aurorus is a really good E tier pick. So I think he just kind of dropped the ball a little bit down the line, but I think Hydra, Coco, Moth, Ogerpon, Buzzwole is the best offensive core in the entire league outside of maybe Flashes. And then Orthworm's going to be passing. It's going to be passing substitutes. Meloetta is extremely bulky with the Terra, and he used Swampert to win season 2 of Wi-Fi last season to a great effect. So this is the perfect like high tempo offense. This is my bread and butter. This is my favorite kind of drafting style, and Quinn just absolutely hit it out of the park. I think it's the highest rated draft that we had, like overall as well. Um,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
funny wants to take it away.
All right. So yeah, I agree completely. I also rated it 9.5. This offense is just insane, dude. Tapu Koko, Hydreigon, Ironmart, Buzzwole, not just Ogerpon, Terra, Ogerpon, which is allowed in C tier. That's still a little insane by me. Excellent defensive core, like you said, Swampert. This is an Orthworm with Shed Tail, by the way, so it can get in mons like Mega Banana pretty well, and Mega Banana could just be so fucking annoying. Encore, a Prankster Encore, Taunt, just like all its stats boost plus Poltergeist. It's like a real mon now thanks to it getting Poltergeist. Destiny Bond is really, I feel like, is really smart with this team. Can enable the rest of Quinn's offensive mods, especially the Ogre Pawn or the Iron Moth under the Electric Terrain really well. I really fuck with Shedtail and this team. There's honestly no like. I guess the Gorbice and Maractus aren't the best E tiers, but they're also like E tiers. I don't think you're not gonna get much else. I don't see like much else. Your water is a defensive water, and you already have a good grass type. And honestly, I don't see real any like holds defensively with this team either. Maybe fire, but you have a Hydreigon, you have a Swampert, you have I guess Corbice, but Corbice isn't really a real mon. But maybe it could be like a solid has solid offensive potential. You have four rockers, three spikes users, one T spikes and Iron Moth. One thing I'll mention though, the removal isn't exactly best. It's just Coco and Hydreigon, and Defog is usable, but again, it's a move that they wouldn't like to run. And again, getting rid of that terrain along with Defog could be not that great, especially since you have no spinner. Um, there's a good amount of knockoff users: Swampert, Ogerpon, Meloetta, Banana, Maractus, I guess. Just I think this offense is just so overwhelming. It doesn't matter that your removal is kind of weak. You can just like kill your opponents before you die from hazards anyway. Ian, do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think you guys pretty much summed it up really well. Attack, it's got probably the best attack of any team in the league. In terms of, I can't really see any team in the league looking at these rosters having an answer for everything on this team. So there's always a solution to break any team down, which is really impressive. So attack wise, I would give it a 10 out of 10. It's got some really good defensive options as well, which I really like the Meloetta, Swampert. Don't really see where the Maractus fits on this team. Feel like could have probably swapped that out for something better. The Gorbais as well. I guess if you're shit tail into Gorbais for a shell smash to catch someone off guard, but I don't really see where those two really reliably fit. But other than that, everything is amazing. In terms of the hazard removal, it could be better. No rapid spinner, defog only on Coco and Hydray Gun. Kind of limits both of them or either of them to be run defensively, perhaps. Uh, but it's not that big of a deal for this team. Yeah, really strong team. Like it a lot.
Yeah, the reason why some of these Pokemon are picked, Banana, Maractus, Auroras, those are just, this is such a Quinn team. Those three are like some of Quinn's favorites, which is probably why he didn't really need anything else, I guess. So he just padded out with some of his favorite Pokemon. And this is such a
Sure.
Quinn team. I can see him performing really well, similar to how Brad and who have teams that really fit their playstyle. I think the exception is that Quinn don't really have any other weaknesses along with it. So I can see Quinn doing really well in this season overall. All right, let's move on to our last coach. One of my personal favorites as well. It's Ian. You can take it away
It's
too.
Sure. Okay. So going into draft, didn't really have much of a plan besides Ogopan, Heartflame. Everything else just sort of fell into place. Got sniped to bits in this draft, but sort of tried to make things work. Yeah, so basically the idea of this draft is to have um, reliable source of hazards running all over the team, reliable defoggers, rapid spinners, hazard spinner, momentum, from switching, wish passes, well, wish passes, and so on. But I think what I really like about this team is the deoxy speed in TA. Usually, I never really been a fan of this mon, but recently been getting more and more into it. Really good hazard setter. It sort of can be run as a nuke as well if you want to. It outspeeds pretty much everything in the game. So you always have EVs left over to invest elsewhere. Um, Basically, it sets the groundwork for the rest of the team to do work. Thunder, Therian, always a reliable mon, Volt Switch, and it has Volt Absorb as well, which is really nice. Pairs well with Jellicent, which has Water Absorb for the team. Uh, Another mon which I'm really excited is my Mega, which is Mega Heracross against Trailblaze, so I'm quite excited to use that in case Trailblaze isn't enough. Sticky Webs and Slurpuff is there to somewhat unlock Mega Heracross more easily, as well as other breakers like Nido and all that. Silvally is just one of my favorite mods in Draft League. It can do pretty much everything, and it gives you so much freedom. So it's one of my favorite mods. Parting Shot, Defog, uh, multi attack, so on. So quite like my team. A few things perhaps I think I could have done better is not particularly happy with my fairy type in Slurpuff. I think it's there to somewhat. It's more of an offensive option for the rest of the team, but I feel like it may have compromised the rest of my team a little bit by offering. Usually, I prefer a more defensive fairy type, so maybe Silvally can still fill in that gap, but overall quite a fun team and I think suits my style of play. Yeah, excited to use it.
Yeah, okay. Something.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Hutch, go ahead.
Okay. I'll just probably not give too much on this, but I really like this draft. It's a very comfortable draft. Um, I think Deoxys speed is probably undervalued here in A2. We just haven't really unlocked the full potential of it because Nasty Plot is allowed. And this mon gets pretty much all the coverage you could want. You could also be an E killer. You can kind of do whatever you want with Deoxys speed. I think if your plan is to run it hazards most weeks, I think why did you draft it? But this thing is such a Swiss Army knife in terms of what you want to do. Like if you have a matchup where Mega Heracross and Ogerpon or Thunderous or whatever just go nuclear, Deoxys Speed can take that step back. It can just be like a hazards lead, and it can let everything go crazy. So as well as Silvally is, like you said, one of the most versatile mons in the game. I think this team just has a lot of versatility with it. Mega Heracross is a nightmare to prep for. Like you said, I don't like Slurpuff. I've used Slurpuff as my fairy before, and I have fucking hated it every week. You want it to be bulkier, but it's not. You want it to be more offensive, but it's not. Doxbund is available right now, which I think probably the biggest issue I have with your team is the lack of a defensive core. I think you force Savali into being a bit more defensive, which I like offensive Savali a lot more. Um, so I think that's probably my issue with it. I would have preferred the Nido King. Nido King did not have Terra. I think tearing Duraludon, which would have been a lot better, because then you can get it to a pure steel type, which Duraludon is already extremely bulky. So I'm perfectly okay with no Terra Duraludon. I think it just makes it a little bit scarier. Um, so I think overall it's very good team. Maybe Spiritomb doesn't do what you want it to because you're a little bit Ghost Weak, a little bit Dark Weak. Um, but I think overall, like this team has a really good offensive core, and that's kind of the theme of this season. There's a lot of teams that have such a good offensive core that you just don't even care about the defensive core. I think the defensive core is good enough. I know you've used Jellicent a lot. Like I said, Duraludon is stupidly bulky now that it gets Eviolite. Um, you have a ton of hazard setters and Deoxys, Ogerpon, Mega Heracross in terms of setting up spikes. So I think this is like a really, really high tempo offense team that is really, really strong. Like I said, if you probably swapped Slurpuff to Doxbund, I think this team gets so much better. It allows Savali to kind of pop off and go offensive a lot more often.
Yeah, I agree completely with like basically everything you said, Hutch. You too, Ian. I think the Deoxys Speed is an amazing Pokemon, amazing, super undervalued Pokemon in A2. I got the privilege of using it in Paldea Dex League. And yeah, you're right. If you don't pigeonhole it to just be a hazard to lead like it is in, I don't know, in ladder, I don't know, maybe. I haven't played too much ladder. But if you don't pigeonhole it to be a hazard to lead, it can go crazy. You can literally run so much stuff. You can run Life Orb, you can run. I mean, hazard lead is good too, but just not every week. You could be an E-speed killer, you could be fully physical, you could be fully special. And unlike Regieleki, its speed can actually it's just versatility is so amazing, and it can use its bulk. I mean, it can use its EVs, its speed to put its the rest of its EVs into bulk, so it's a little bit more surprisingly bulky for how fast it can be. Uh, Even like a Specs variant has put in work for me. I think pairing it with super strong momentum in Organ Heartflame and Thunderstyrian is awesome. I really fuck with those two being together. Basically, those two together is like ultimate bulky water nuke. You have Mega Heracross. These three Pokemon can bring in Mega Heracross pretty nicely in. Savali is forced into the defensive role, and I'm not much of a Savali fan to begin with. But I also haven't seen it put in too much work, so maybe I could be wrong. Nidoking's sheer force with Terra, I think, is really nice. I maybe would prefer Duraludon to be Terra as well, but completely fine with Nidoking being Terra. I think it's gonna be an absolute nuke. And Jellicent is a good. I'm not sure about Jellicent actually being your Terra captain. I think its defensive typing is really important. You do have already two other. You already have another normal immunity in Spirit 2. So I kind of get the idea of tearing it, but I think just having that bulky water there could be useful. And I guess you could do that if you tear water, so it's not too big of a deal. Drampa, Spiritomb, and Kamala are I like Drampa as a E tier Terra Cap. I feel like it can be like super strong. I personally haven't used it too much successfully, but I can definitely see it as someone you use it well. Ian. I think Rapid Spin, Kamala being your only Rapid Spinner is a little especially because you would prefer running Rapid Spin with a team where your spikes and Stealth Rock, well, mostly just Deoxys, but being since Deoxys is a good hazard setter, and you do have a good rockers in Nidoking and Duraludon, I think I would prefer maybe a better Rapid Spinner. But I guess it's slim pickings when you are looking for a Rapid Spinners in D tier and E tier, so it's not too big of a deal. Last thing I would like to point out is that there's a bit of a fairy and ice weakness. Jousting being your only ice resist and is a little rough in particular. Um, yeah, I mean, there's not much to say, not much else to say with this team. I really fuck with this team a lot, and I'm really excited to see you pop off with that. And do you guys have anything else to add?
No, I
No?
think
Yeah, okay.
that's good for me. Like I said, really liked it.
Alright, so with that, guys, we are done with our draft analysis. Thank you for watching. This is going to be a really hype season 20. I'm really excited to see all of us perform. It's a great community. We might have more video content, according to Brad, apparently, so stay on the lookout for that. And yeah, thank you guys for sticking around for such a long video. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. See you.